Welcome to the Hearthchemist, everything Hearthstone and Yu-Gi-Oh! I am back with a new deck profile, well, with an updated deck profile of Synchros. Synchros, as I've mentioned before, is one of my favorite decks overall. Dawn of Majesty came out not too long ago. This is really a casual deck. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be very, very successful overall, just because it's so easily interrupted. But if it's not and you go first, then you will have a very powerful board that is going to be super difficult to break. Not impossible, but super difficult to break. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start with the deck profile. So we're going to be having a triple Junk Synchron. I just think that this card overall is pretty important. Just because you really need this card to start your plays even more than before. There are a few cards that came out in Dawn of Majesty that you really need to have this card in order to get your perfect end board. So definitely 3 of is a must. So another one that you want to have 3 of is going to be a triple junk converter. So again, triple of those. Really, really important card overall. The good thing about this is that, say your opponent Ash Blossoms it, you might want to bait it. You might have like 2 tuners, Junk Synchron in your hand, Junk Converter, and a random tuner. So you discard the random tuner, and if your opponent Ash Blossoms it, you can still pick it up with Junk Synchron and then go your plays from there. So definitely, it's a really good card. But yes, if you don't have a way to play around being ashed, it is going to be really, really bad for you. But hey, I mean, its ability to even allow you to extend an overall, I think it's worth it. So having it a 3 is a must right now, unless there's a better card that comes out in the future. Another 3 of that we want is Doppel Warrior. So a lot of the times we really don't use 3, but the issue is that you do want to see it as soon as possible. So if you do not have it, if you have it at less than 3, yes, you do have 1 searcher for this card, but I mean, it's very unlikely to have it. So it's better to run this card at 3. The ability again to get those tokens are key. A lot of the times they're essential for you getting to a really, really great end board. Another 3 of that we're going to have is going to be Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. So again, this is really a very important to have in a meta where your opponent is searching cards or adding cards from deck to hand overall. If you notice that in your locals that's not the case, then definitely you can replace it with something else. Preferably if it's a hand trap, something that is also a tuner, because the reason that I have this card is because it's a tuner and I can use it for Junk Converter to find one of my key Synchron cards. All right, so another card that we have at 3 is another hand trap, which is going to be Effect Veiler. So Effect Veiler again, it lets you interact with your opponent. Since this deck overall has very little ways to interact with your opponent if you're not able to get your ideal end board, then yeah, you definitely want this card. And again, if you're able to set your perfect board and you still have this card in hand, then you really don't need to use that negate that you have on the field. Maybe your opponent is baiting something and they're like, oh, you have 2 negates on field. Well, I have 3 cards that can go over it. Well, now you use Effect Veiler on the proper one and they're pretty much out of options and lose the game. So yes, Effect Veiler is pretty important. Again, tuners are always going to be important in this deck. Another card that we have, this is on 2, which is going to be Stardust Synchron. 3, I mean, it depends on the build that you have. I think that if you go for the more pure Stardust build, then definitely you might want to have it at 3. Even sometimes in this build, I kind of think maybe I should have it at 3, but it's very difficult to get rid of other spaces because I already have a bunch of tuners and I don't necessarily want to get rid of the other ones that I have. So yes, its effect is good, but not to the point that I would want to have it at 3 because I only have 1 card that it's able to search by its effect, which is a pretty important card. But again, 2 I think is more than enough if you're able to summon it with Junk Speeder. Okay, so another card that we have is Synchron Carrier. It allows you to extra normal summon, so a lot of the time that's going to allow you to do enough plays. It also generates a token under certain circumstances, which is like summoning the warriors synchros type of thing. So yeah, definitely it is a great card at 2. I had it at 3 before, but it's just there's a lot of cards that are battling for that space. Another of which is Caligo Claw Crow. You have 2 of these. There's a bunch of dark monsters, and then again, a lot of the time your opponent is going to try to negate your effects. So they really can't negate the special summon unless it's with a trap card. But if it's turn 1, they can't Solemn Strike it because they still have it in their hand. So yeah, a lot of the times having this card is going to allow you to go to the plays that you need to do. So 2 is okay, 3 might be a little bit overkill, to be honest. Another one that is at 2 is Cybersynchron. Cybersynchron is great. It allows you to protect a monster in the extra zone, which a lot of the times it's all about positioning in this type of deck. So yeah, definitely it's good. Also, the ability to increase its monster that is level 4 or lower, basically by its own level, might be relevant in some situations. Not all the times, to be honest, but sometimes there might be that situation where you might want to do it. Okay, another 2 of is Quillbolt Hedgehog. Again, a lot of 2 ofs, but it's just really dependent on what you have available. So Quillbolt Hedgehog, it's great because you can special summon it with Flourish Synchron that you'll see in a second. But also, if you're able to discard it as a material, or for whatever reason, again, it gets sent from your hand to the graveyard or from your deck to the graveyard or whatever, you can special summon it easily by having a tuner, which you have a lot of those. So yeah, I think 2 for now is good. I might replace it in the future, but I don't really know with what yet. 1 Floor Synchron, again, the ability to special summon from your hand a lot of the times is going to save you being able to get the board that you want to get to. So yeah, 1 is good. Another that we have a 1 of is Omni Dragon Brotar. This card is really needed with the next card, which is Converging Wills Dragon and the spell card. So yeah, which is Arriving Miracle. And because it also allows you to search, if you have a token, a Doppel Warrior token, it allows you to search for a Junk Synchron and then continue your plays from there. So again, 1 of each. Then a Satellite Synchron. Honestly, I just have this for the name. I really don't feel that this is as useful because a lot of the times, say you summon something from your graveyard, you want to have what is going to be a Doppel Warrior instead of this card. And if you have both cards in hand, it really, you can't stack them. You either pick one or the other. Because I believe on the wording on only essentially has to happen immediately after the play. So then yeah, at that point you can't like chain it or anything. So yeah, I might get rid of this one, but again, it's a Synchron, so you don't just want to have 1 level 2 Synchron, because if you draw it, then you can't special summon another one, and it might be a key thing to continue your plays. So going to the spells, this is a new card that came out, which is Synchron Overtake, which is a fantastic card. Unfortunately, in the tournament that I went this week, it really didn't, I wasn't able to draw it that much. And when I did, it was really important, but when I didn't, I basically lost, right? Just because, again, that ability to special summon Junk Synchron from your deck. So you have to have a Synchro monster in the extra card zone that in the extra cards that has the name of a material, like it has to say Junk Synchron, for example, on the card, which I do have one of those. And it lets you special summon it either from your hand, from your deck or your graveyard, or add it from your graveyard or your deck to your hand. So either or. And honestly, again, I think that that's pretty good. And yeah, it's a really, really good card, but it really didn't come up that much. And when it didn't, I definitely lost. I went basically X2. Another three of is obviously tuning. Tuning is a very important card to find what you need. Synchro Overtake is a lot better. Tuning sometimes gives you that random shot on sending a monster that, again, like a Quillbolt Hedgehog to the graveyard, and that allows you to do all your plays sometimes. So yeah, triple tuning it's still a relevant card, but it definitely needs something more powerful right now. We do also have a Black Garden. Black Garden allows us to extend plays. You have to be very specific on when you play it because it does have your attack. And then if you special summon too many monsters in a row, you might lose the monster you want to special summon, which generally what you want to special summon is going to be a Doppel Warrior from your graveyard because they have exactly 800 attack. So if you decide to, for whatever reason, you're like, oh, I can special summon twice because if not, I might go like for a bigger play. But if you have this card on the field, not only they will lose half of their attack, but also you're going to lose that shot to special summon that Doppel Warrior, which might cost you the game. Also, you have to consider the Garden Maiden, which you'll see in a second. But yeah, that's also a plant, so it counts that as well as a plant. So just keep that in mind. And another one of is Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn allows you to extend, arrive in light, which again you're able to search with your Stardust Synchron. One reinforcement of the army, which lets you search for a lot of cards, but specifically Doppel Warrior, since it's very difficult to search other than with that card. And one Called by the Grave, because again, we mentioned that we are very vulnerable to hand traps. We do want to do our best to negate that effect whenever possible. Okay, so that was the deck. Now going to the extra deck, we're going to Cosmic Blazer Dragon. Not always you're going to be able to use it. You basically need, at the very least, Doppel Warrior and Junk Warrior. Doppel Warrior and Junk Synchron on the field to be able to get to this final end board. So not always you're going to be able to get to that. Also, you have your shooting Majestic Star Dragon, which is an Omni Negate, really good. You also have a Crystal Wings Synchro Dragon, a very important card. It's a monster negate, and it also elevates its attack on a lot of circumstances. One Stardust Dragon, just because a lot of the time, initially, the first week that I took it to casuals, I noticed that I really wasn't able to go to the negate effects that I needed to. So, like, I would be able to get maybe 2 negations of monster effects, but they would have like a lightning storm or something like that, and they would just destroy the entire field, and that would be horrible. So having a Stardust Dragon as a safety measure is pretty useful still. I mean, it's not as powerful as before, but people still play removal or monster removal. So in the form of a spell or a trap card, there's Torrential Tribute, which again, Torrential is pretty powerful, so having that Stardust Dragon is going to prevent that. We also have one Psyframe Lord Omega, which is an interruption. We also have a Dawn Dragster, which it is a spell or trap negation, which is pretty important. We also have one Charge Warrior, which allows you to draw a card, and it's your only level 6 monster. A lot of the time you need to go to that 6 monster to continue doing your plays. One Junk Speeder, which is very important. So I honestly, this past tournament, it was just interrupted so many times that I'm thinking that maybe I should have a second one just in case. So you might want to have that second one because basically if they negate one, it's game over. Another is Garden Rose Maiden. Again, this lets you search your Black Garden. So definitely important card, and it also lets you get a monster from a Synchro Dragon monster from your graveyard to special summon it to the field, and you banish that card. So that's really, really good, because when you're extending your plays, you're likely going to use those level 8 Dragon Synchro monsters. We also have one Junk Warrior, again, for the Synchro Overtake. So yeah, pretty important. One Axle Synchron, because it's very flexible on the plays that you want to get to. Yeah, so having one of those is pretty good. One Hyper Librarian, honestly, like what this is basically when you when you get the ideal situation, you might want to go to this and draw a lot of cards, but also at the same time it's a risk, right? Because your opponent might interrupt you. Like if you want to say, instead of going for Junk Synchron, you're like, oh, let me go for Hyper Librarian, because if not, I'm not going to be able to go to it unless I go to a different type of play, and that's not going to allow me to do it. So if you go for this first and they negate it, then you basically lost the game. But again, drawing cards is always good, especially because you're likely, if you want to go first, your opponent can still go over what you have or a part of it. So you still will have maybe a few synchros left that can change the tide. So again, it's kind of you may want to have that one, but also at the same time, it's something to think of, right? One Martial Metal Marcher, because it lets you get a tuner synchro, or sorry, a tuner back from your graveyard. One Celestial Double Star Shaman, again, lets you extend your plays, so it's very important. Get that Doppel Warrior that you need from your hand. And one Herald of the Arclight, which is a negation. So a lot of the times, maybe if you notice that your opponent might not have a good hand, and you don't want to, maybe they have like a Nibiru or something in hand, you go for the Herald of Arclight, and also again it banishes the cards that are sent from the hand or main deck to the graveyard. So a lot of the times that might impede your opponent of doing important plays, right? So that is the deck. If you like the deck, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.